Hey everyone, this is sort of a tier list video that I wanted to make where I get the chance to talk about all the Motarou games that I've played, all the VIP RPGs made by him that I have played to completion. So there's a couple of them. It is mainly the Dogma games, the Keigoru games, and Epitaph, and then that's like basically it. But this isn't really to sort of just like pit them against each other or make this super like competitive or anything. It's just that I wanted to have a chance to sort of like pour out my love for these games, since it's been a few months now since I've played most of these, and they're still fresh in my mind, and I just really wanted to get a chance to sort of talk about how much I love them. I know it's kind of like a meme to say like, oh, I'm one of the 10 people who have played this, but actually there's a very small number of people who have played these games, especially amongst those who speak English like me. But yeah, so yeah, I played all these games, played them in JP. It was super fucking fun, and I'm just gonna go through them and kind of talk about my experiences with them, and then put them somewhere on this freaking chart here. So the first one here is Windy o Kaitan desu ka? And it's like, but I want to keep it windy. I think that's how you would translate it. But yeah, this is a short one. This was the first one I ever played, made by Motarou. And it's really short. It's like 20 minutes. It's just a miruge. There's no walking or anything. You're just kind of watching through scenes and clicking through the text. But this one, for being so short, it's surprisingly pretty cool. There's not too much going on, but it does have like a very concise message that it tells. When I read it, I was just like kind of moved instantly with how it kind of goes out. So basically, the premise of it is that in this sort of world, Windies are these almost like products people buy. I don't know how to exactly refer to them, but basically Windy girls, they live only for a day, and it kind of follows through the Motarou's self-like insert character and different stages of their life, and them being angry and upset and depressed and nihilistic and just angsty all around, and the different stages where he will get a Windy to sort of comfort him and how it sort of affects him, and you just kind of watch these short scenes throughout different periods of their life. It's pretty well made actually, but it is very short, it is very self-contained, it's not directly connected to any of his other works, you know, any more so than how VIP RPG culture is connected to each other. So I like it. I'm not sure, okay, I didn't really plan out how this list is going to shape, so things might move around. I'm going to put in C for now, like high B, low B, high C, because the thing is, I'll just put B for now, because I'm not sure how this list is going to shape out. It's just kind of like comparative to each other, but I do like this one, and I think, like, if anyone just wants like a short Miruge to play, like regardless of their interest in Motarou's other works or not, this one's pretty cool. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the first game in the Dogma series, Dogma no Hakoniwa. I think that's what it's called if I remember correctly. But yeah, so this is the first Dogma game, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I hate this game. For certain reasons. I don't know. I think Motarou made like a couple KSG games before this, if I remember correctly. I'm not super versed on his entire catalog, so forgive me if I say some infactual things, but this was his first like full-length work with like a gameplay system and a world and everything, and it's very skeletal, it's very bare bones, but that's not like the worst of it. For me, it was constantly aggravating when I played, because it has a super vague progression. So basically, it's a classic like Dragon Quest V inspired sort of bare bones RPG game, JRPG game, and you go through it as this nameless self-insert protag. You literally like give yourself the name and everything. And then you have to go around the world collecting these different items, doing these different like little story arcs, and then once you get all 4 of them, you fight the final boss, which is none other than Dogma himself. And the interesting thing I did like about this was the whole premise that Dogma would come down and like basically kill people on the spot whenever they were like super in despair or mourning. That was always like the common thread throughout, where these people either like different NPCs throughout the areas, throughout the villages, or sort of like when you beat someone, they kind of give up. Dogma would come down and like instantly strike them. And I thought that was interesting, but it never really capitalized on that. And sort of this world is like super barren. There isn't too much wisdom that's put into it, as like with some of his other works. One of the strongest points that Motarou has as a creator, in my opinion, especially in his later works, is that when you visit these different areas, one of the biggest strengths is actually, and one of like the part of the experience is just talking to every NPC, like exhausting all of the dialogue, seeing what nuggets of wisdom is like trickled throughout all these different interactions. And this first game doesn't really have any of that. But man, I really cannot stress enough how much I did not like the progression. And like, for anyone unfamiliar, basically to sort of progress the plot and like what you need to do in order to, you know, unlock things and move forward in the story and in the game, you have to like do these certain flags or things like talking to someone or fighting someone or going to a certain area, etc., etc. But in this game, it is so damn vague what you have to do. I got lost so many times. It was an experience where like, this game is only a few hours, but it took me like a whole week at least of just like, when I would try to play it, I would get stuck somewhere and then I'd have to retread all my steps throughout the whole world, go back and like double check everything, and then go back to where I originally was and double check everything again, and I would just get lost and lost and lost. And maybe I'd be more tolerant of this game if like a guide existed, because I would have no shame in using it, but it doesn't. And you know, to that fact, I really had an aggravating experience with this game. It was constantly like infuriating, and it was not rewarding at all. So that's kind of the the poison that comes with this game, is that it's pretty aggravating and it's very one-dimensional thematically. So it didn't really have a lot to keep me going. The only saving grace, I guess, is that it's not that long, but it feels so long. It feels like an eternity. So yeah, I do not like this game. I do not like the first Dogma game. The artist area was kind of cool, although he's done things like that way better in later games, for those who would know what I'm talking about, as far as just like the theme of like creators all being in one spot and all just like agonizing over their self-appointed responsibility to art and creation, as I would say. So yeah, but it doesn't get capitalized on. This game is very bare bones and skeletal and minimal and upsetting. So yeah, I still do not like this game. It is the bottom of the bottom. I honestly really despise it. But that's probably the most I'll bash any of these works. So this is the second Dogma game, Hikisakareta Badaru. And this game is such a tonal and like emotional whiplash from the first one, because this game is fucking awesome. It follows the same sort of fetch quest world sort of progression system, but the catch is that rather than being in one giant open world map, you start the game as the main character, and you start in this sort of smaller world with this big tower in the middle, and you go along and you meet different characters and you recruit them to your party, and once you choose those, then you start climbing this tower, and the tower has different floor levels with enemies and mobs and stuff and going through that, but there's a bunch of different doors to go through and you'll find NPCs. And then through that, at different, like, at certain checkpoints after going so many floors, there will be like a big door in the way. You have to stop there and go out to this mini world and do the story arc sort of thing in the mini world before progressing to the next set of floors in the tower. So it's a great system because it's given a progression, it's given a format, it's given a layout where you don't get exhausted. You're just doing one thing at a time. And let me tell you, Motarou's sense of like aestheticism and design has increased from the first to the second game tenfold. The environments in this game are freaking awesome. They look so beautiful. And the characters are lively. From this point on, each Dogma game kind of gave me something to add to the series. This one gave me a sense that of like Motarou's like vision, if that makes sense. Like sort of, it introduces a lot of well, not a lot of them, but it introduces like hints of the ideas that will become core in the Dogma series. It introduces the beautiful environments that will become, you know, recurring throughout the Dogma series. And the fucking ending of this game is so good. When I got to the ending, I got a sense that Motarou knows how to climax. He knows how to make something pay off. He knows how to give a resolution. And like this game alone, like if you don't want to play any other of the Dogma series games, this one could work as a standalone work for just how good it is, how preliminary it is, but it works so well in the series also. This is such a great game. Immediate A tier. The S tier is saved for some very special works, but wow, I love Dogma 2. I could talk about it so much. Meeting Ishtem and Ashia for the first times. They're so good. Their dialogue is so great throughout the game. I chose them, and then you know, the self-insert Dokuo character in my party when I played, and it was just such a great time, such a good ending, so concise. Didn't really get lost in this one either, at least not that I remember. So it was just a great experience. I love this game. Okay, now we will move on to Dogma 3, which is Poison Selection. And this one is unlike the first two games, there's no gameplay, it's a Mutoge. There is some walking around and like KSG sequences, but there's no actual RPG battling or anything like that. When I first played it, I was honestly floored. Like, in retrospective of the whole series, it's not one of my favorites, but I think it's a very important work to be at where it's at as its place in the series. So, like I said, Dogma 2 introduced like the environments and the aestheticism and like the tone, I guess, of Dogma. Like you can from Dogma 2 rather than Dogma 1, you really start to see the potential of the series. In Dogma 3 and Poison Selection, I started to see how the universe connected and how this could become like an actual series rather than just like spiritual successors of each other. An actual long-standing history in the making. Oh my goodness, and the art of this game is so good. Motarou's like original art assets, that's what I'm looking for, are so beautiful. He is such a good artist. It's really good. I don't know if I wouldn't put it on the same level as Dogma 2, but it is a high B. And yeah, especially that scene where Poison goes to the convenience store, that was very moving for me. That was something that stuck in my mind. And I didn't even like give a little synopsis of this. So basically, Poison, who becomes one of the most important characters in the series, but this is the first time you officially meet them, is another in the figure of the Dokuo self-insert Motarou Morning Village character. I don't know if there's like an official name for this figure in the VIP RPG lore, or if they're even a part of it, because I haven't played too many, to be honest. But this version, Poison, has been cursed throughout all of eternity. They have an eternal curse of like samsara and rebirth and reincarnation on them, where they'll always live. And you see them go throughout these different worlds that they're reincarnated into, and you really see their despair and their self-hatred and their self-deprecation, and how it sort of manifests their curse in the first place. It's a very interesting concept, and it opens the door for a lot of stuff that the series will later capitalize on. But I really just I loved this one. It was really good. So, like, playing 2 and 3 back to back really gave me a high of like, wow, okay, I do see the potential of this series, and I'm gonna stick with it through the end. So yeah, that is Poison Selection. Alright, now we are coming up on Dogma 4, aka Arasu no Hyohan Bako. If I remember how to say that right. This is the 4th Dogma game, and this one, honestly, was a bit polarizing, but there is a good conclusion to it. So, let me go into that. So this game is set up in a similar way to the first one is, with its open world nature and the progression and like how the game is sort of laid out. So that already was sort of a downside for me going into it. On the plus side though, I was enjoying sort of like the village layouts and all that stuff when I was going through this in the beginning. And the sort of the world progression and the travel progression is a little more linear, but there were some moments where I did get stuck on like some flags, and I was getting kind of butthurt at it, because it also has a similar sort of system and goal as the first game does, where the beginning part of it is you have to go around, collect these 5 different orbs that are disguised as like people or characters, I guess. And in completing these mini arcs, you'll find one. But like finding out how to progress them and where to go is it was a little challenging. And there was like especially this one part where I was just completely lost for like a whole day. I spent like a whole day just like no clipping through the whole map, trying to find like what should I do, where haven't I gone yet, da 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 da. It was a bit frustrating, I will say. And during that experience, I did start to enjoy more of the NPC exhausting dialogue sort of part that I touched on earlier. I think that you get glimmers of that in this game, where there are some cool nuggets of wisdom dropped by some NPCs in like the corner of the world. And like I said, the different villages have good environments as well. But it's not until I got past that frustration you unlock all the orbs, and then you can visit Alice's castle. I forget the name of it. It's like Saint P, something with a P. But you go there, and Arasu, who's like the main antagonist of this entry, is giving a sermon, and it's a very poetic and poignant sermon on like God and faith, and it's very reminiscent of like Kierkegaard. Actually, I don't even remember if Kierkegaard's mentioned or not, but he might as well be, because it really reminded me of those ideas and those works. Yeah, it's just a really like shocking moment. It's almost like a turning point in the series where you kind of are like, oh shit, this guy is actually cooking something. I mean, like you knew that back from like the second game, but you really start to see like a big thematic bridge being built at this point, and it was super exciting to me. And then from that point on, this game just skyrocketed for me. Like I was like I said, I was like back and forth on it because of like different design frustrations, but at this point I did not care. There's an arc where the part where you go with Ishtam to liberate the prison, or I guess the people that are imprisoned, is really amazing, and there were some beautiful poetic lines that I like had to savor. This is really where I started to feel Motarou as a writer, and his lines of dialogue were just so like piercing me. And sort of the thing that this game added for me was that overarching bridge of the theme of everyone is connected by our own loneliness. Everyone is suffering, even the gods. And this game has a really like cathartic ending, especially if you do the the sort of after game part where you take the flying Brian. Is it Brian? I think it's Brian. You take the flying Brian hot air balloon over to that one floating area, and you do that little thing, and then you get the epilogue experience where, I'm not going to spoil it, but you know what it is, where you basically, that one song plays and you get to talk to some people, and it's a super, you know, resolving ending, and that really made me feel for the series for the first time, and it really made me emotional, even more so than the ending to Dogma 2. But yeah, it was really super amazing. It's something special, and I'm really glad that I saw it through to the end and I pushed forward, because it was worth it, even for this game alone. So it's very polarizing, but like that ending segment, that ending act, really just pulled it through for me, and I loved it. I loved it so much. So I'm gonna put Dogma 2 and 4 kind of next to each other, because like I both like them that much. So next we have Dogma 5, Arisia no Pense, and this one is another short miruge, even shorter than Poison Selection, and there is no walking around. It's just kind of like I Want to Keep a Windy, where you're just watching scenes and clicking through the text. And this one is like sort of a lore entry of Ishtam and Ashia's mothers, of how they met and their origin story, Arisia and Ishchel. And this one, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I mean, obviously, I don't know what to expect with any of these games, but when I was starting it, I was like, I didn't really have a sense of what sort of ideas this work was going to touch on. But honestly, it ended up flooring me. The parts in the middle where, I don't want to really spoil the story, but basically where Arisia is like thinking of her writing and her great work that she wants to publish, and she sort of has that moment where she's talking about loneliness and the flood of emotions and the ideas that destroy other ideas, and this ended up being something really impactful to me, like personally resonating with me very, very deeply, and it was something that I took into account when I was finishing my Sakuta writing work. But like those parts, this is such a short work, but those parts stuck with me, like even more so than the endings to Dogma 2 and 4 at the time. Like when I was reading that, I really felt that this writer, this creator, I connect with it. Like I personally align with these feelings, and it's very comforting, and it's very empowering, and it's very also elusive and scary. But I mean, like all those feelings when we encounter writings that are very, like, you know, personally impactful to us. So without dwelling on it too much more, I'm gonna also put it up there at the A. Even though it's such a short work, and I imagine some people would kind of not pass it up, but sort of, you know, not reflect on it as much. This one, the ideas and the lines in it, like, just were so great to me. But yeah, holy fuck, I loved it. And at this point, I was like, Dogma might be like this series might be one of the best things that I've ever experienced. But yeah, after that run, I was just so into this, and I loved it. So yeah, that's Dogma 5. All right, now we're on to Dogma 6, which is Zoe no Kyome Bako. And this one is a collection of shitposts brought to you by the characters of this Dogma series that have now started to connect to each other. And honestly, even though this one is like literally like a collection of shitpost scenes that you just like walk up to and press on, and then you can see them. Even though it's something so like lighthearted and silly like this. Well, for one, there is an ending scene after you've seen all of the shitpost scenes. There's like an extra one reward to you that does help set up Dogma 7, and it is sort of a very important scene. But, you know, regardless of that, even, I don't mind how silly and brief this one is, because at this point I was starting to really love the characters, and seeing some of those scenes were actually so charming to me, and it really just like kind of enhanced my love for the series. So I won't put this one too high. I'll probably put it like low C even, because it's literally just a collection of shitposts. But I think it's well placed because like it's short, but it's good extra content. It's good extra content because I started to really love these characters at this point. And yeah, so yeah, that's Dogma 6. Okay, and now we move on to Dogma 7, which is Shunya no Karabako. I don't, for people who know, I don't have to explain myself. Shunya no Karabako, aka Dogma 7, is maybe my favorite work of fiction ever. A day has not gone by where I haven't thought about this work. Essay and this concept of kanashimi to kanashimi is probably one of the most powerful and like rewarding things I've ever like known ever. Yeah, this work is powerful. It's not only is it like incredibly fun and well structured in the way that's laid out. I don't want to give away anything, but like, god fucking damn, this, like, I cried so fucking much at the end. I don't know if I've ever been more emotionally invested in a work as I was with this. Like, definitely not since I first played Tsurashiki Hibi, like years ago, like years earlier in my life. But this is something special, and I'm never gonna forget it. It might be my favorite thing ever at this point in time. It's the way everything comes together, the way the theme, like, retrospective on all the other games, the way it pays everything off, the way it's just like perfectly paced, and then you finally get that last trip down memory lane at the end. It is so fucking gorgeous. That final sequence, I was in shambles. I know that's like sort of hard to take seriously when people talk that highly and dramatically, because it seems like overly dramatic, and it seems very like showy, showboaty of like your own feelings to talk about it that way. But I truly, earnestly, genuinely, honestly feel that strongly about this work, and I'm never gonna forget it. I'm never gonna forget Ishtam and fucking Ananda and Knockout and Poison and all of them. It's just, oh my god, it's just so fucking beautiful. And the writing, the lines, the wisdom, the dialogue, the fucking Wittgenstein name drops just completely like took me overboard, and I just will never forget this work. It is truly a product of eternity. And yeah, that's how much I love it. Okay, next we have the Keigoru series, and the first one is Saraba Keigoru Shima. And honestly, this one I didn't like that much when I played it, which was funny because I was coming off the high that was Dogma 7. But this one's kind of okay. It's like a very short path you follow of, I don't even want to say villages, but like these like different just areas where people are hanging out. Yeah, these short areas where people are hanging out, and you go through them, and you fight the mobs, and you level up Wendy, and then you get to the end. But it's very short and self-contained. I didn't even have that much fun with it. The best part about it was the Spinoza like mini boss, I guess you could say. That was fucking cool. But honestly, I don't feel too strongly about this. I'm probably gonna put it even in D, although I definitely prefer it to the first Dogma game, because the first Dogma game just kind of frustrates me and is all over the place and takes a lot to get through. But yeah, I don't have too strong feelings for this work. So this next one is the second Keigoru game, Oide yo Jisatsusha no Mori. This one was better, but I'm not too strong on it. It's really cool seeing Ishtam and Ashi again. Or, no, I think you just see Ishtam in it, yeah, at the end. And the NPC dialogue is pretty cool. The cave environments are kind of cool, but it doesn't leave too strong of an impression yet. Definitely not as much as the next one, which we'll talk about soon. But yeah, I don't have too many feelings on this. Just the most fun part about it is just talking to all the NPCs and going through it. But it's pretty extreme. But I do like the starting inclusions of the design choices where there are like event markers and stuff like that. And being able to just like kind of bypass all the mob fights, so you can just sort of like eat everyone up and keep going. But yeah, this one's alright. I'll put it above Dogma 6, but not on the B level. Not quite. Okay, and then we have the third Keigoru game, which is Mogure Keigoru Shima. This one is awesome. This one is very awesome. In this one, it follows a similar format as the previous game did, but the world like you travel through and the different areas are awesome. There's so many great NPC dialogue parts. And then obviously you have to play as Ishtam, and then Aris and Ashia cameo. But it's like the NPC dialogue in this one was what blew me away. And then the other amazing thing is the part at the end is super memorable, where you get that room with the different Motarou NPCs, and he delivers confession lines, like personal lines to the player, and that was something that really stuck with me. I said like as like a little caption when I logged this on my nepchan, but like it feels like you're going through this like psychedelic trip with like these NPCs talking as if they're like delivering lines from C.S. Pierce or something. Just like super highbrow references mixed with like absolute shitpost, you know, fucking chin chin and manko humor, as is common with all of Motarou's works, even Dogma 7. Every single one of them. But like the dialogue is very strong, and then that part at the end where Motarou delivers the confessions, and he even names Wittgenstein again as an influence, which was really fucking cool. But yeah, that really stuck with me. I don't know if I would put it on the A tier with like Dogma 2, 4, and even 5. So it's like a low A, high B for me, but it is really, really cool. If like you going through the Dogma series like I did and becoming attached to Motarou's philosophy, how it's developed over time, and like, you know, just becoming interested in like how someone could make stuff so powerful like this, just like with their hands, is so amazing and breathtaking. And hearing those like confessions at the end, those lines in the room with him is, it's really rewarding, and it's really comforting actually, even if the stuff he's saying is not always the most joyful. But it still feels like a sense of companionship in a way. I don't want to like advocate for like a parasitic relationship between author and creator, because I don't have that view of art at all. I believe that objects of art are objects, and art is for the viewer, and the creator is the first viewer in that. But it really, like, hearing a creator like him talk about things like this is like, it all in a way, to me it is like pretty relieving almost. It's very beautiful. And then lastly, the most recent one I played was Epitaph Sultai no Aitai. And this is like what many people consider his opus. And yeah, I don't have to go into it any more than that, but I don't want to compare the two, because it's so like hard to talk about either one of them on their own, let alone like to each other. But like I do strongly believe Shuno no Karabako and Epitaph are his like crowning achievements as a creator, just like from my standpoint. And I think anyone who's like played through it, regardless of the rest of his catalog or not, like, can really see that how powerful of a work Epitaph is, how like deeply personal it is, how terrifying it is. Like, Epitaph is a work. When I finished it, I felt such a profound sadness and grief. Because it's a work that made me feel guilty for even being born. And oh God, it's hard. It's really hard to talk about, like, even just to myself when I don't have the mic on right now. But yeah. One thing I also want to say about it is playing Epitaph after playing all of the Dogma games also enhanced every single thing he's ever done for me. Because getting that sort of timeline from him, and especially for like Dogma 2 and stuff with Chun, and then all these Easter eggs, and then parts of Dogma 7, the parts of his life he was at when he made these games, is something that's so special. And I don't think anyone's ever gonna find a work similar to this, of this caliber, anywhere else. I think this is like a miracle in time that this person, this creator, Motarou, was able to make something like this, and it's fucking breathtaking. He is such an amazing writer. He touches my soul. It's like his wisdom is unparalleled, and the way he writes things connects with me in a way that I've only felt before from Skaji, but it's different. It's different. I don't want to say it's like higher or lower, but it's his own work. It's his own perspective. But yeah, these two games, especially in the S tier, are gonna stick with me forever. I don't think my feelings on them will ever diminish in any sort of way. It's so special what he did with these. And yeah, so that's Epitaph, and that is my whole list. Yeah, that's my whole list. I hope anyone, if somehow someone else who has played some of these games watches this video, I hope I helped you sort of like give you an opportunity to re-evaluate your feelings and think back on things, and hopefully it's fond. It's, you know, you think back on them fondly, and you're grateful you've played them, because that's my hope. But I had a lot of fun doing this. I had fun being able to talk about these and just say how much I love them, because I really do. And yeah, that's my list. That's my video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, whatever time it is for you, and have a good one.